Creatively Uncorked. My name is Josiah and I will be your artist for the day. Creatively Uncorked is located in West Fargo, North Dakota. We do social painting events as well as private parties. So next time you're in town, stop on in and grab a drink at our bar and join us for whatever painting we're doing that night, or schedule your birthday or bachelorette party ahead of time with us. We're also located online at quite a few different places. You can find us at our website at creativelyuncorked.com, where you can order your art kit to go or see what we have upcoming. We're also here on YouTube and on patreon.com. At both of those places, you can find some of our virtual art kits where you can watch our videos and paint along with us like you are doing today. Before we get started, I want to go through a couple of the rules here that we have at our studio. The first rule is have fun. We do fun art here, not fine art, so keeping that focus is going to help us have a good time here. Rule number 2 goes right along with that, and that is no negativity. We just can't have a fun time if we are being negative. So I just ask that right now we leave any negativity that we might be carrying with us today outside. So whether you spent your whole day at work or at school, whatever that is, leave that world behind and join me in entering the world of art. Let me go over our materials real quick. And I've got a few cameras here. You can see I'm switching those over now. That's just so you can see whatever I am doing from a few different angles. You'll be able to see my face, and you will be able to see this camera from the side in case my clunky hands here are covering anything up that you want to see. So for materials today, we have our paints. If you got your art kit to go from us, you'll be using the same paints as I am today. These are non-toxic, water-soluble acrylic paints. So non-toxic just means it is safe for kids. Water-soluble means that we will be using our water here as a means to thin that paint out. And also, if you get it on your clothing and don't want it there, you can wash it out with water if you catch it right away. Our colors for today, I've got some white. I've got both warm yellow and chrome yellow. Our painting has a lot of yellow in it, so I wanted to have 2 different colors there to add some variation. We have some chrome orange for the poppies. And then we have burnt umber and burnt sienna. These are both 2 brown shades, but the burnt sienna has a bit of a red tone that is really good for tying in all these colors together on this painting. We also have our brushes here. And these guys are our friends. We can't make our painting without these. So here at our studio, we make everybody that paints with us take the Creatively Uncorked brush pledge. So from wherever you're at, if you would just join me in taking this pledge, it'll just make sure that these paint brushes live long and happy lives. So grab those brushes, hold them up in the air, and repeat after me like you mean it. I will not let paint dry on my brushes. When I am not using my brushes, I will put them in my water cup. All right, thank you. The last few material things that we have is our canvas, a paper towel for cleaning out any excess paint or drying off our brush when needed, and a water cup. Like I said, this is water-soluble paint, so having water on hand is essential. One thing I wanted to show you real quick is what our art kits look like. So some of you are painting with one of these today. If not, you can get these on our website for next time. It comes in a pizza box, and we can ship these right to you, or you can pick them up at our studio here in West Fargo. When you open it, you get the instructions for the painting. So this one is for toothless. You get the paints that you'll need, a pack of brushes, and any stencil that might be needed for that painting is already put there on the canvas for you. So right here we have toothless already there for you, making that a lot easier. So gather your materials and let's get started, okay? And by the way, watching this video here, it's going to be a little bit different than if you are, say, at school or at our studio where you're painting along with somebody live. You have my permission to pause me, rewind me, watch this over and over if you need to. So I might be going through this kind of fast, but if I'm going too fast for you, go ahead and stop it, catch up, and continue when you need to. We're going to start with this biggest brush. Go ahead and swish that around in your water. Dry it off a bit on your paper towel. And we're going to start with the background. So you can see the example right here on the top left. That's what we're going off of. For now though, remove all the grasses and the poppies, okay? We don't need those right now. We just are looking at that background. The main things that you will notice when you look up there is there's one area of the painting that is brighter than the rest. And that is right here in this section in the middle. So that's where we will be using more white paint. The other thing you probably notice is that there's a bit of a brush stroke to it. So we'll be doing these kind of X's, and you'll see me do those in just a moment. I just wanted to draw your attention to those right now ahead of time before we get started. So when you're ready, we're going to take that white paint and go right on into that middle section. And I know you can hardly probably see this right now. White on white, not a good color combo. Can't see it. But then we're going to start adding in our chrome yellow. We'll save the warm yellow for later. So the brighter of the two. And I like to blend this on the canvas. I think it looks really nice when we do that because it lets the paints kind of blend themselves together naturally. Add more white paint whenever you need to. And notice that I'm being very loose with these brush strokes. It's really hard to get a perfectly smooth background. So I normally, in my paintings, try to leave a healthy amount of brush strokes in there. So we don't want it to be a big blob of paint. We do want it to be smoothed out a bit, but we can leave some of those lines there. Lets people know that it's not a photograph, right? And when I'm jumping between two colors like this, I'm not cleaning my brush out in between each dip into my paint, but I am being careful to pull from one side. On this painting, it doesn't matter as much, but if we needed any white paint later, it's good that we didn't dip right into the middle and get it all covered in yellow. So working out from that center, let's fill this all in. If you need to lighten it up in the middle, we can. Just add more fresh white there. And as we go out towards these edges and to the corners, it's going to get a little bit darker. So we can add more and more of that yellow in as it gets close to the edges. And some of you, if you do much on Instagram or anything like that, you probably know what a vignette is. And that is just this kind of circular shading. So it'll leave a little bit of a frame where it gets darker. So right here, it's going to be a bit darker around that edge. I guess it's not really dark because it's yellow, but it is going to be brighter. There we go. And then just look over it real quick and make sure that all of it is smooth shaded a little bit, okay? So that just means that the yellow and the bright yellow and the white yellow combo are not a complete stripe between them, okay? So we can blend those together with this big brush. Doing these kind of cross brush strokes. If you are trying to go for a nice smooth look, you might just need to pause this. It'll probably just take you a bit longer. It's difficult, but it can be done. So I believe in you if you want that look. Now I really like contrast in my paintings, so I'm realizing that right here can be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to add in a bit more fresh white into that center area, right where the flowers will go, and brush that out so it's smooth. There we go. If you are a perfectionist like me, you can carry your paint over the side of your canvas. This will make it just look really nice, even if you don't get a frame for it. All right, as we go into this bottom section now, even if you filled all the way down, that's okay. But we're going to transition into this other yellow. So I didn't even bother to clean out the paint. They're both yellow and they're going to blend together. Let's add in some of this warm yellow from the bottom. Again, this just kind of creates a bit of variation in there, so we don't have just a completely plain yellow background. Don't go up too far with this. We want it to kind of blend into the grass, so we want it to only go up to about here, a quarter of the way up your painting. And again, we want to kind of smooth that out. I'm still doing the wild brush strokes. We want it to blend a little bit and not be stripy at all. And we will be adding grass over here, so if you kind of think of grass as you do it and add these swoops going up a bit, that will actually add to that overall effect later on. When you're all done with that, you can clean off any excess paint on the side of your plate or on your paper towel, and then make sure this brush finds its way into your water cup. We'll want to let this dry for a couple of minutes before we move on, so that those other colors that we add on top aren't picking up all these yellow shades underneath. So take a moment and let your painting dry, and I will be right back with you. Thank you. All right, welcome back. I hope you took a moment to let your painting dry. Let's go ahead and continue with this painting. So I'm going to continue with the same big brush. We're just going to want to clean it out in our water and dry that off. And we're going to be doing something called dry brushing, okay? So you want the brush clean, you want it dry, as the name implies. And the other essential part of this is that we want to use only a very small amount of paint. So whenever I do this, I dip into the paint, just the tip of the brush, and I'm using my brown, so the burnt umber, not the brown that, the burnt sienna, the one that has a bit of an orange tone to it. The straight brown, you dip into it, just the tip of your brush, and then get some off on the side of your plate. And now watch before you do this. I'm going to start from the bottom here. I'm going to pull these lines straight up. And as you go, you can kind of lift up. It creates this really rustic look. I encourage you to start with a very small amount of paint. As you get comfortable with it, you can go in with a little bit more. We're going to go pretty much straight up with these, okay? We don't want too much going on with that grass. If you have one that goes off a little bit to the side, that's totally fine and dandy. We just don't want to get too complicated with those. We also do not want this grass to go up too far, okay? So just in this bottom quarter to half section, and make sure that you are playing around with the height. We don't want them all identical. I doubt anybody's been mowing this grass. And we're pulling from the bottom up with all of these. Whatever season you're watching this in right now, I love how springy this one is. And I think we can always use some more spring in our lives. So that is why I picked this painting for today. It's summery outside. Once we've gotten a coat with that burnt umber, we can do the same with the burnt sienna. So again, I dipped into it, got most off on the side of my plate. Then I'm going to pull these lines straight through there. And again, make sure that we have some areas where it barely goes up. Some areas where it goes a lot taller. And as you get comfortable with it, thicken up the paint in some places. We just want to make sure that all of the brush strokes kind of fade out as they go. right, there we go. That is all I want for that background there, okay? Now let's leave this brush in that water cup, and we'll switch to our 1/2 inch flat brush. If you have an angle brush, that will work too. Dip that in your water, and let's grab our chrome orange. Now all we're going to be doing, and you can follow along on your plate first before attempting to do it on your flowers, is just pulling these lines towards where the stem is going to be. The important thing is that they all converge on that point. So to help you out, I would suggest adding a dot first. Now all of our lines, we'll start with the flat edge at the edge of that petal, and pull it towards that dot, and as you get close, you can kind of turn it. Okay? So you just give it a little bit of a twist. You can have some of these petals, you can kind of use the flat of it a little bit tilted so that it's not quite as thick. And we're bringing them all towards that dot. And when you're done with the flower, you might notice that there's some spots that need to be gone over one more time, like on this one. You also might notice that there's spots where there's just too big of gaps. You can just fix those. The other thing that might happen with yours is you might feel like it's just too straight. So let me show on this one here what I mean. If I have these 3 lines coming in, and they're all just really straight lines, what we can go in now and do is retrace these side ones and give them a bit of a curve. Flowers are normally curvy, so let's give them a bit of a curve. If you need to use that smaller brush, you are welcome to do so. And now we don't want all these flowers to be identical. I really like the composition on this painting, having a few taller ones, a few shorter ones, a few that haven't even completely sprouted yet or haven't blossomed. And I also like that there's a few of these that actually are opening downwards, or there's just this one, I guess. There we go. And you can just kind of imagine where the stems are going to go. Let's add the top one here. If you need to rotate your painting at any point, you can do so. I'm going to turn it to the side here. It's easier to pull these lines down than across. And some of these petals will be kind of flattened out. So like this one right here, you're not going to see that whole top of that petal. It's just going to be kind of a line. There we go. I'm going to straighten that back out. And then I've got one here that's just blossoming. It hasn't even fully opened yet. So let's just bring these petals, these 3 main petals, down, give them a nice little curve to them. And we can totally do that too. We can paint it from a few different angles and then afterwards go over on that middle one to really show the difference, or the separation between those different petals there. All right, one more. And feel free to make some adjustments to this composition. If you for instance, did all of these, and they're just spread out more, and you don't have room for this one, that's fine too. If you did them all a bit smaller, you can add more flowers too. Creativity is always a good thing, you guys. Is your favorite flower a poppy? Is that why you guys chose this? My favorite flower, I was reflecting on this yesterday. I was reading a short little story about this guy that did some gardening, and he was talking about dandelions and how much he loves dandelions. And I think I was realizing I really like dandelions too. I love their color. Love that you can put them behind your ear or weave them into a little crown. I like dandelions in my salads. They're nice. All right, we're focusing on poppies now though. So once you are all done with those, getting the main flowers, let's go ahead and add some detail for the stems and a few specific lines into the grass to tie it all together, okay? With our two browns, we're going to focus on the burnt umber. We'll see, we might use a little bit of the burnt sienna as well, starting with that burnt umber. So let's start by just bringing these lines down from the flowers we've already created. And we want them to be pretty much straight, but add a little bit of life to them. So for instance, this one right here, I'm going to give it a little bit of a curve because that's facing that way. We can give it a bit of a curve. Also, if you are more comfortable with a smaller brush, now's a good time to switch to that. Just make sure the other brush finds its way into the water. And when we're drawing these lines, we want to make sure we have the paint wet enough that it's dragging, or that it's gliding across, not dragging. But we also want it to cover things. So mine turned out a bit too wet, a bit transparent. We'll go over it again later. Now let's keep doing this, and we'll add it on all of them. So again, we can give it a bit of a curve and then straighten out. And then there's some that are a bit more complicated, like this one. It's going to curve to kind of try to straighten out. So it has to go straight from the flower, but it's trying to straighten out. And then because of the weight, it's going to compensate by coming out this way. So you can almost imagine the flower, the stem leaned over that way to be able to carry such a heavy weight that was drooping over. And if your orange is dried enough, we can connect these a little bit. So just drawing a few little lines there at the base of the petals that connect to the top of the stem. And try to paint realistically at all costs, okay? So right here, I didn't want these to touch each other, but it would have looked weird if I didn't have that curve that way, okay? So just go with it. I promise painting honestly and making it look natural is better than trying to force a composition that you had in mind. So these two are connected now. They're kind of leaning on each other. It's kind of cute. All right, this one can go pretty much straight down. So start there and pull this line coming down. My line got kind of thick here. That's okay, we can roll with that. We just need to thicken up the rest of it there. Give it a bit of a curve and straighten out. All right, so that now we have our main flowers with their petals and their stems. If any of them became too transparent, we can adjust that, we can change that. So you can go over any of them that need a little bit of love. Just one more time, darken them up. And I was having a bit of trouble with this small round, so I'm going to switch back to my thicker brush, the half flat. And we are going to add a few other ones here now. And these are the ones that have not blossomed yet. So add them wherever you have some gaps. So right here on mine, I'm going to bring a line coming down there. I'm going to make another smaller one down here. It's hanging out with these other two. Make a little one right here. And then to give it some variation, I'm going to make one more really tall one right here. There we go. It's hanging over there. It's okay to switch between the brushes a ton. That's why we have different ones. And now the shapes of these are very similar to when we were painting the petals. So they have a bit of a curve to the top, and then they all come in to that one focal point where it connects to the stem. Whoops. We can go over any lines we need to, as many times as it takes. Sometimes this brown doesn't show up as well as we'd like. So let's add these buds on all of them. There we go. One more. All right. And now we have all of the poppies in place. The last thing that we want to do on this painting now, as a finishing touch, is just adding a few more lines into the grass here. And I'm going to recommend using your half flat, using that nice thin edge of it. You can use that small round brush too if that is easier for you. And I'm going to stick with that burnt umber for a moment, and then I'll add a bit of that burnt sienna too. And we can just add these lines in our main grass area. So this is going to go really well with that dry brushing we did earlier. Just add a few darker lines. Make sure you're keeping the nice flat of that brush so that they come up and they really look like grass. We can switch to that burnt sienna to add a bit of variation as well. Same thing, just drawing some grass in there. And you might need to make some adjustments to your painting. I think I brought my dry brushing up a little bit further than I wanted to. So I'm finding that when I bring this grass up a bit higher as well, so that it's actually about tied with these poppies, it looks a lot better. You can see it more clearly. And that's okay to make those adjustments. We can have some of these lines go straight through poppies. That's okay. And take a step back every now and then just to consider your painting and ask yourself if that might be enough detail. If the answer is no, we want more grass, add more by all means. But we don't want to overwork it either. Now, going off of that same vignette effect idea that I mentioned at the beginning, we can have our grass do a similar thing. If you're just about done with the grass, but you think it looks a little bit too monotone, we can add in a few taller strands all the way out here on the sides. And there we go. So that is our poppy painting. Again, pause this, rewind, whatever you need to do. It's all here for you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you liked today's video, and I hope your poppy painting turned out wonderful. If you enjoyed this, I'd encourage you to like the video, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, or subscribe to our Patreon, where you can find all of our virtual art kits. Again, all of you are invited to come join us in person at our studio. I'd love to meet you, paint with you. So thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye.